Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do another cartridge review, and today's cartridge is the 300 Weatherby Magnum. Stay tuned. Back in 1944, Roy Weatherby actually designed several cartridges which would be released the following year in 1945. Like many of his cartridges in 1945, it was based off the 300 H&H. If you look at the 300 H&H, it has a lot of body taper, around 50 to 60 thousandths body taper, and it has only an 8-degree shoulder angle. Now this makes it a great cartridge for easy feeding in a bolt-action rifle. However, there's a lot of potential there for case capacity, which Weatherby took advantage of. And if you look at the case capacity of the H&H versus the Weatherby Magnum, it's a huge difference. He went with a double radius Venturi shoulder, which is unique to the Weatherby cartridges here in America. There is debate on whether or not this actually gives it some type of ballistic benefit or not, but it definitely sets it apart. The goal from the beginning with the Weatherby cartridges was as fast as possible. Therefore, the 300 Weatherby is no exception. It's rated for a 65,000 PSI pressure rating. And then later in 1958, when he developed the Mark V rifle, it was developed for very high pressure ratings as well. The specs that Roy Weatherby laid out in this 300 Weatherby, much like his other Weatherby cartridges, would be that it would have quite a bit of free bore in that chamber. Because of the factory ammunition and how hot he planned on loading it, he wanted to make sure it didn't have overpressure, especially in the early days between 45 and 58 when he did not have his own rifle. He used Mausers and Sockos and a few other things. But he wanted to make sure that that increased free bore would take care of the excess pressure, and therefore you could still get the speed that you wanted out of it. The 300 Weatherby cartridge is an American classic. You know, I think of some classics. I think of the Model 54 or 70 Winchester in that 270 Winchester. I think of the Model 700 Remington in that 7mm Remington Magnum. But when I think of a Weatherby Mark V rifle, I think of the 300 Weatherby. The 300 Weatherby is a phenomenal hunting cartridge and has been for 70 plus years. It has taken game all over the world and still does so today as we head into the year 2023. The overall length of the 300 Weatherby is meant very similar to its predecessor, the 300 H&H, to fit in a Magnum length action. Unlike something like a 300 Winchester Magnum, which is made to fit in a standard or long action. Speaking of the 300 Winchester Magnum, that is a common comparison that we have today. Overall, they're a very similar design, both coming from the 300 or 375 H&H. They have the belt, similar design, yet the shoulder's a big difference. The neck length is a big difference. To just fit into that long or standard action, the 300 Winchester Magnum does have a pretty short neck per caliber. And in turn, the Weatherby actually has a pretty long neck per caliber, which would help if you're using a heavier bullet, give more room in that neck for your bullet to seat and not take up case capacity. Both cartridges come in a 1 in 10 twist rate. And then the most obvious difference is the Weatherby is overall longer, as previously stated, Magnum length action versus standard length action. Therefore, it has more case capacity. Therefore, the Weatherby will easily get hundreds of feet per second more velocity than will the 300 Winchester Magnum. The thing the 300 Winchester Magnum has going for it is popularity and availability of rifles chambered in it and ammunition loaded for it. One downside, in my opinion, to all Weatherby cartridges is they're so proprietary. It is hard to find really any rifle chambered in a 300 Weatherby Magnum other than Weatherby rifles themselves. There are some, but it's not very common, especially today. And the same is true for ammunition. Weatherby ammunition, factory loaded, is not as common or easy to find as other cartridges like the 300 Winchester Magnum. And when you do find it, generally speaking, it is more expensive. If you're looking for something easy to find, easy to get ammunition for, Weatherby might not be the best for you. However, if you hand load, if you reload, then really as long as you can get the components you want, there's really no issues there with availability of ammo. And with the Vanguard coming out in the last 20 years, it's really helped because the Mark V is kind of an expensive bolt-action rifle, but the Vanguard is definitely a cheaper alternative, yet still a good quality rifle. And speaking of quality, I would say that even though the availability is a downside for Weatherby, the quality is a big upside. Because they run a tight ship and keep things in-house, you can pretty much guarantee that Weatherby rifles and Weatherby ammunition will be top quality. Like I said, the 300 Weatherby has killed game all over the world, and to this day is a great hunting ground. I myself have never owned one or shot one, so I'm going to bring somebody on the channel now who has more experience and is going to be able to share that with you now. So let me introduce Reloading Weatherby. So I'm doing a cartridge review on the 300 Weatherby Magnum, and I'm going to defer to you as more of an expert because I have never shot one. So if you have a minute, I just had a couple questions for you.
Sounds good.
What about the 300 Weatherby Magnum made you want to buy it and use it?
It's kind of a funny story. I was pretty much sold on getting a 300 Win Mag. And funny enough, I was really worried about getting the velocities that the reloading books would say. And so I was telling my dad, I was like, I got to find a Win Mag with a 26-inch barrel. I'm not going to get one in a 24-inch because I want to get like a 180 grain going close to 3,100, not, 3,000 feet per second or slower. And my budget was under $500. I had briefly looked at getting a 300 rum, but they were all in Remington 700s, and those are usually $600-700, so it wasn't an option. So I was pretty stuck on the 300 Win Mag. And I went to a local gun shop and saw a 300 Weatherby for $480. And then I was like, the 300 Weatherby was really not on my mind at all. But then I realized my dad had all the reloading stuff, so I wouldn't have to buy factory ammo from Weatherby because it's pretty expensive. So that's how I got a 300 Weatherby. Was like, well, why not? It's fast, so why not?
Sure. I've watched most of your videos, and I know you've got some pretty good velocities out of your 300 mag. Can you talk a little bit about your experience reloading for the cartridge? What have you found that works, and how does your results, I should say, compare to published book velocities?
Okay, so every gun's going to be different, individual gun in that cartridge. But what I have found with my Weatherby is it's much faster than the books by like 200 feet per second. I don't ever load it over what the books say, or it can be really dangerous because I think my gun just shoots really hot. So I've tried to shoot close to max, and there's just too much pressure. But like a max is like shooting a 180 grain, almost 3350 feet per second. So that's again like 200 feet per second faster than what the books say. But you look at Weatherby factory ammo, and its highest velocities are like 3250. So it's a little bit closer to what Weatherby sees in their ammo. So I think just for whatever reason, the reloading books are always very conservative with the Weatherby cartridges, at least in the 300 Weatherby. Another interesting thing with a Weatherby cartridge is you don't really ever load it close to the lands. You know what I mean? You want it to jump very little to the riflings. There's a huge amount of free bore, so the throat is extremely long. And so with reloading, it's kind of simple. You just pick a powder and the weight charge that it likes, and that's it. And your, I guess the length is based off how long your magazine is. So that's really what it is. It's pretty simple. I think there's also a notion out there that the Weatherby cartridges, because of the free bore, are not very accurate. But I've kind of found the opposite to be true with my Weatherby. It's like almost every single bullet I've tried, with exception to the 178 ELDX. And I bet I could have gotten that to shoot if I would have done a little more development with it, but I just didn't. And the smallest groups I've gotten with it was with match bullets. It was like 0.36 inches. So pretty good, I would say. On average, my hunting loads are 3/4 inch groups. So it's a good shooter. Yeah.
Awesome. That's what I've heard from other people too. It's really cool. Would you recommend this cartridge to others? If so, who would you recommend it to? And what hunting applications would you recommend it for?
Yeah, I'd absolutely recommend the 300 Weatherby. Weatherby offers a more budget-friendly Vanguard. That's what I got for like $480. You can still get them even now in 2022 for about $550, so it's not bad. And I would recommend it for those that are in the West. So, example like you, I just don't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you getting a 300 Weatherby and shooting whitetails with it, but is it really needed? No. So I'm out West and I wanted a dedicated elk cartridge that I would feel comfortable with the power out to at least 400 yards. And so I definitely get that with this 300 Weatherby mag easily. So I definitely recommend it for those that are going to be elk hunting, maybe even in Alaska. It's actually relatively popular in Alaska as well. So,
anything else that you want to say about the cartridge, or that maybe everybody listening should know?
one last thing: if you don't reload for this, the 300 Weatherby mag is the most popular Weatherby cartridge, and there are other manufacturers that make ammo for it. Specifically, Norma makes very cheap, good ammo. So the last time I saw Norma ammo, factory ammo, it was a 180 grain, and I believe it was even a bonded bullet. I could be wrong though. And they were selling it for $55 for 20 of them. That's not bad.
Nice.
Yeah, that's like half the cost as Weatherby factory ammo. So there are cheap options for you. So I know people kind of stay away from the Weatherby because the rifles are expensive and the ammo is expensive. But at least in 300 Weatherby, you definitely can find cheaper options for it. So,
Winston, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us about this awesome cartridge. Happy holidays, and until next time, thank you for being on the channel.
Well, thank you. Everyone have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Austin, for coming on the channel, and thank you for helping out with this video. What are my personal opinions on the 300 Weatherby? If you've watched my channel much, then you know I like the 30-06 and the 308. In the places I live, that's more probably geared toward the type of game that I'm going to hunt with. But if I wanted a 300 Magnum, and I felt like something like the 300 Winchester Short Magnum was just not quite enough, perhaps for the type of bullets I wanted to shoot. When I look at what's in the market today, let's say the 30 Nosler, the 300 PRC, the 300 Weatherby, the 300 Winchester Magnum, and I'll add in there the 300 Remington Ultra Magnum. Of those, I do think I like the 300 Weatherby the best, my personal opinion. When comparing the 300 Weatherby to the 300 Winchester Magnum, I prefer the Weatherby. If you're gonna take that H&H design, why not go with the full length, have a longer neck, and be able to do just a little bit more on the performance side. If it was me, I would go get a Vanguard rifle, not too bad, on the wallet, and I am going to be hand loading for it anyway. So I do think I prefer the 300 Weatherby over the 300 Winchester Magnum. But the 300 Winchester Magnum is a darn fine cartridge. and I'll do a video on that before too long. So if I decided to go full-length 30 caliber Magnum, I'm going with a 300 Weatherby Magnum. I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and here just in a week, a Happy New Year. I thank you for watching my channel. I thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. More videos like this will be coming out. If you did like this video, please like it. Check the description below. I've got some links to my website and a few different things that I have. And I'm thrilled that you're watching this video. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day. And until next time, take care.